Hello everyone, my name is Blacks and welcome back to the Broxer channel. In this new video, we're going to showing you The Last of Us Part 2 game review. This game came out in 2020, it was developed by Naughty Dog and it was published by Sony Interactive Entertainment. This game is a PlayStation 4 exclusive and truly a masterpiece for the generation. So let's check it out. The Last of Us is one of the rare beloved games of the past decade that not only didn't demand the sequel, but actively seemed to resist the idea of one. Its story is largely bitter because of how self-contained it is. Not knowing what happened between Joel and Ellie after his fateful final decision burned a mark into the brains of many who played it. And that open-ended question has lingered for years. But with The Last of Us Part 2, developer Naughty Dog rises to the challenge with not only a complex, profound story that gives it a reason to exist, but also deep and satisfying evolution to the original's third-person action stealth gameplay. One of Part 2's biggest achievements is how it knowingly handles the weighted expectations that a sequel to one of the most heralded game stories of all time will surely carry with fans. It starts out seemingly simple, taking place about 4 years after the end of the original and setting an older, angrier but still immune Ellie on a quest for revenge that also hones in on the cycle of violence that can plague humanity as much as an infection. It knowingly leans into the tropes of the genre, such as guilt by association and the inevitable escalation of matching an eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth. From there, Ellie's journey grows into something much more ambitious. The Last of Us Part 2 deftly handles a war on the streets of post-zombie apocalypse Seattle, an expansive new cast of characters and some gut-punch payoffs to the lingering emotions The Last of Us's powerful ending left us steering over for the last 7 years. The Last of Us Part 2's story is handled as masterfully as it was in the original. One of the most impactful ways Part 2 harkened back to The Last of Us is how it asks you to identify and emphasize with its characters, even when you almost certainly won't always agree with their actions. In a medium often defined by giving us the power to choose what happens, The Last of Us and The Last of Us Part 2 concern themselves more with fully realized characters, asking us to take them as they are. Actors Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson once again bring so much heart and honesty in their performances as Joel and Ellie, respectively. Ellie is without a doubt the protagonist of Part 2 and Johnson brings nuance to every phase of Ellie's character. Watching her grow up and wrestle with her past while still learning who she is as a 19-year-old is riveting at every step. She delivers some of the most human moments that Part 2 serves up. The Last of Us Part 2 also introduces a great cast of supporting characters. Shannon Woodward is instantly charming as Dina, bringing a joy and kindness to a world where it's otherwise so tough to find. Part 2 also introduces a great cast of supporting characters, like Shannon Woodward, who is instantly charming as Dina, bringing a joy and kindness to a world where it's otherwise so tough to find. And it's also important to highlight, in spoiler-free terms, the incredible performance by Laura Bailey, known for her roles as Mary Jane from Spider-Man and Black Widow in the upcoming Avengers game, among numerous others, as a new character. Like so many of the Last of Us characters, calling her good or evil would be reductive. One of the biggest critiques of the first game is that its combat and puzzle segments weren't deep enough to avoid repetition over its 15 hours, and Part 2 has taken major steps to remedy that and add variety to the gameplay. Ellie is far more nimble than Joel, and she's being able to jump, swing, and climb over and under things to more carefully avoid or stalk enemies. From underground caverns to destroyed office and apartment buildings to the lush, overgrown streets of Seattle being reclaimed by nature, Part 2's stealth combat is easy to understand but consistently existing to try and master with every new fight. Part of that comes from the scope of its battlefields. They take place in areas like multi-tiered shopping malls or fragmented skyscrapers that offer what feel like naturally complex puzzle boxes. Ellie's ability to jump, go prone, dodge, and even run away from combat not only takes advantage of these large spaces, but also enables that improvisation within them, pushing you to adapt to any situation or meet a quick death. Enemies don't just stick to set patterns, they're reactive to the environment around them. And the infected, well, they haven't suddenly started talking, but their mob mentality is more threatening than ever. New enemies like the Shambler throws noxious bombs that cuts off potential escape routes or obscure other enemies. The returning but more prevalent Stalker are even scarier than before. They use silence to sneak up behind you, and when one attacks, it often means more are on the way. Fight with them, and a mixture of the many other infected enemies with different abilities to take into account led to several encounters that rivaled the best survival horror experiences out there. Enemies feel vastly more intelligent and varied in this sequel, and the little details make all the difference in combat. When alerted, enemies will check every inch of a map, including under cars and around each bit of cover, and their increased responsiveness to change in the environment. For example, every human enemy has a name. They can communicate with themselves, and when you kill one of them, they will start to investigate the area, they will start to look for you, and etc. Despite all of the added nuance, Part 2 has some of the most brutal combat animations ever created, and it's never played to a cartoonish degree the way something like Mortal Kombat does. It fits thematically with the tone, Ellie's revenge-minded focus, and the violence those in power will use to control this post-pandemic society. But that doesn't make the impact any less gruesome and occasionally hard to stomach. The most frequent kill you will witness is Ellie's stealth takedown. A grab, stab, and slow, clumsy fall to the ground for every enemy you use it on. And also Part 2's expansive environments aren't just there to be sandboxes of death. The artfully detailed and realized locations tell layers of story, from the macro destruction of a certain city district down to the posters and calendars hung on abandoned apartment walls. It seems as though every room has a story to tell, every office has a history, every store shows a place or group of people frozen in time. And Part 2's environmental puzzles never feel mindless. They have a lot more contextual challenges that make a smart use of Ellie's journey through skyscrapers, residential neighborhoods, sewers, planes, and more. From figuring out how to angle a rope to swing from one office to another locked room to navigating a parallel series of tripwires, using Ellie's new mobility to many more everyday tasks that take on a new tension in post-apocalypse setting. Part 2 makes much better use of its environment to offer unique, consistently engaging puzzles and platforming routes. And while The Last of Us Part 2 is not an open world game, it does include an open world area that learns lessons from Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy's attempt at the same design idea, but this time to much better effect. While those games presented areas of open, explorable wildernesses, they often didn't have much to find there, making exploration feel somewhat aimless. In Part 2 though, a destroyed district of Seattle offers years of lost history, a mixture of events frozen in time by the pandemic and those who have tried to survive there since. The Last of Us Part 2's evocative audio design, backed by the moving score of returning composer Gustavo, plays a big role as well. It all comes down to the little details, characteristically for the region. From terrifying noises of the infected that lurk outside to the slam of debris that blocks the doorway and the quiet creaking of an alternative exit, the slight hum of a silenced pistol versus the howling boom of a shotgun, and vocal performances from the guttural screams of the clickers to the muttered self-reflection from Ellie as she kills an enemy. The Last of Us Part 2 is a masterpiece worthy of its predecessor, taking strides forward in nearly every way. Ellie steps into the spotlight and carries the sequel in a manner that feels like the combination of everything that's made Naughty Dog's blockbuster storytelling so memorable since the original Uncharted on the PlayStation 3. It delivers a layered, emotionally shattering story on top of stealth and action gameplay that improves the first game's mechanics while integrating a bit more of Uncharted's greater mobility and action. But while The Last of Us Part 2 is a thrilling adventure, it still makes time for the stunning, nuanced exploration of the strength and fragility of the human spirit. The PlayStation 4 has one of its best exclusives in one of the generation's best games. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing and turn on the notification bell. And if you enjoyed the video, please smash the like button and tell me your thoughts on comments. I see you next time in the next video. Peace.